Life is never easy, but drinking makes it 10,000 times harder.
Every weekend, they would get into a fight. She would take off her ring. She would throw it down. And then the last time I said, I'm not getting it anymore. And if I do go and get it, I'm keeping it. So don't throw your ring down anymore. Like, I'm done picking it up out of a gutter for you.
And I say that the divorce rate should be even higher. People settle way too soon, which not only screws themselves, but the person they were supposed to be with. I almost want to follow yours. I have a therapist friend. She's like, Brian, just get off. But I'm a hopeless romantic. I go, what if I miss the one? I got to be on there.
I think that addiction, in my own personal experience, is the loneliest thing I've ever had to walk through in my life. With a brain that told me, don't tell anybody. Don't let anybody in. Do not reach out. Do not share. Do not let that out of the bag.
Okay, quick intro coming to you on February 23rd, just outside of Boston, where we're having a blizzard. Today, as you can see, if you're watching on YouTube from my fake background, my guest today, it's part 2 with Erin Schaden from Naked Random Thoughts is her blog, where I found her when I was Googling a sobriety quote. And then turns out she has 30 years of sobriety and is also a divorce lawyer and coach. Found fascinating. So hopefully you've watched part 1. We had a slight delay posting this part 2 as I brought on a great new video editor. And in this one, we continue to talk about both sobriety and relationships. We talked a lot in the first part about Coldplay Gate. So the Andy we reference is the CEO who I actually used to work for. And, you know, I had a buddy recently who was married, and he thought it was kind of amusing that both Erin and I are single and are talking about how to have a healthy relationship. But I think a lot of that is because we've learned from having unhealthy ones, and we've learned what the answer pretty much is. And she knows firsthand from witnessing so many divorces. But it ultimately, you know, often comes down to just a lack of doing the work. So we talk a lot about that here. And if you're watching on YouTube, which hopefully you are, because there's some great facial reactions from us. But if you can please give it a like, share, subscribe, and possibly even a review if you're on Apple, you'd be a hero. So thanks for listening, watching, enjoy. Yeah, absolutely. It's all good. You stirred up some quotes in my head. One you mentioned, I think I forget the wording now, almost like a slow learner. And another quote you've said is, and I love this, was that your experience hitting rock bottom was the only way you learn anything. I move at the speed of pain. That's brilliant. Although you said, although I need a lot less pain to get my butt in gear now, which is progress. That's a great quote. And it reminded me, Ben Affleck famously says, the cure for addiction is suffering. You suffer enough that something inside you goes, I'm done, you know, and sadly, that's what it takes for a lot of us. And you also alluded to the great quote of, you know, rock bottom is just when you stop digging. So it's just, now I want everyone to just go and do the work, you know, whether you have this problem or not. It's amazing. I mean, and that's why these communities, AA and the communities I'm in, are so great. My favorite quote is this woman in my community said, oh, I've got a friend. She has all these problems. I wish drinking was one of them so she could join our community. Like,
oh, yeah. Always.
Says it all.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I might start a community for people that don't have drinking problems and just need to do the work, which is everybody. It's group therapy. You know, it's another reason we're the luckiest. I love group therapy, and I never would have even attended it if it hadn't been for that. I remember that show, Dear John, I think it was called. Do you remember that? The guy from Taxi, Judd Hirsch. It was people that sat in a circle. Nothing. Was it an A8? No, I think it was just group therapy, not for drinking. But I just remember thinking that looks so crazy. I would never go to group therapy. But yeah, that's what this is. And here you are 30 years into it, going to the International, which you had asked me, you said, are you going to the International? I had to Google it. For me, it's there's a golf course near me called that. But yeah, you went in Vancouver, which one of my favorite cities. And but you're 30 years into this, you know, and still going to these things.
Well, and sometimes my first sponsor used to say to me, she'd say, you know, Erin, if you're not an example, you're a warning. And I probably have been a warning in recovery far more often than I've been an example. Both are service. I'm going to stand by that. You know, some days I wake up and I'm like, how can I still have this much wrong in my life inside my head with this much time? And other days I'm like, coming from where I came from, I'm just freaking lucky to be here. Like I'm so lucky to be relatively sane on most days. I'm a decent person. I show up and do my best. I'm not living spiritually bankrupt. I'm not a negative force in the lives of most people. I feel very lucky, right? And that's by my own standards, right? Like my mom always says, be you, but a little less, right? Like I feel like I'm always turning down the Erin factor just a little bit because I'm just like, I feel very lucky, I guess, and other people looking at my life be like, wow, you think that she would be further along. I'm like, you guys don't know where I've come from. Even if I share honestly about my journey, I don't share it all. You guys haven't walked the walk with me every single day, right? Like I am lucky to be here. I am lucky to have the sanity that I have and the recovery that I have. And you know what? Your judgment that I should be further along or better off or whatever doesn't matter because I know the darkness with which I came from and survived. So I'm over here in the light most of the days, most of the time. I'm going to call that a win.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you said sobriety is the best thing I've ever been involved with. It gave me a life worth living because I can tell you the way it was before sobriety can barely be called living. It was a nightly suicide mission I kept failing at, and I seemed to have no choice other than to try again the next night. And I remember you saying, yeah, you'd be like, dang, I'm still here. So you were on that kind of suicidal scale?
Oh, yeah. I mean, for sure. I mean, I think I only had a plan. Actually, I only had the plan once I got sober, and that was just because I didn't have my anesthetic anymore. I just felt completely ill-equipped to deal with life and showing up. I didn't have it. I just didn't have it. And the more I tried, the more I felt like and actually did fail. I think it's just a natural human reaction to go, I don't want to do this anymore. I mean, I don't think that I necessarily wanted to die. I couldn't live comfortably in the world in my own skin, period. I couldn't live comfortably in my own skin drunk, and I couldn't live comfortably in my skin sober. So what do you do then? Well, you got to do the work, as we've talked about, to get comfortable in my skin, regardless of my level of intoxication, right? Well, I'm never going to get comfortable in my own skin if I'm going down and doing very unestimable things on a regular basis. Like that, the two are mutually exclusive, right? And I don't know about everybody else, but when I drink, stuff happens.
Yeah. And that's why the work is not easy.
And that's why a lot of people don't do it. like people are like, I don't really want to do that. I'm like, yeah, I get it. And hey, you know what? My hat's off to you. If you can live and not kill yourself and not do the work, maybe you don't really belong here. Good for you. I am a work. I have to do the work every day. It's just my lot.
Yeah.
And the great thing is that the amount of work I have to do on a daily basis is now so seamlessly interwoven into my everyday life that it's not even really work anymore. I mean, I go through hard times like everybody else where I have to like step it up and change up things a little bit and hit more of this and do more of that or whatever. But the basis of my life, which was way down here, is now way up here. And it doesn't really feel like work anymore. It's just, this is just what I do. I do an inventory every day. I just do it. I don't even think about it. It's not like, do I want to do that today or not? It's just something that I get up and I do this and then I do this and then I do the inventory.
Yeah, it's so good. I say difficult conversations or difficult things just become things or conversations. This life is never easy, but drinking makes it 10,000 times harder. And it does get
Absolutely.
easier. Definitely gets easier every day. And I often say early sobriety, it's like living without skin, or you said it's like surgery without anesthesia. I mean, it's definitely not easy, but it's so worth it. And, they say drinking is like hitting the easy button, but I want to invent something where you have an easy button and a hard button and give a dopamine hit when you hit the hard, when you want to drink, but hit the hard. Because if you can just do the hard now, it'll be easy, or at least easier for the rest of your
Short-term
life.
pain for long-term gain,
Yeah.
which is recovery, right? And addiction is short-term gain for long-term pain. That's the deal that you cut.
Yeah.
Like everybody. The best example that I've ever had of what addiction is like is there was this newcomer in my group in DC, and she was just a hot mess. So in one of her drunken stupors, she decided to iron her clothes because she was late for work again. She decided to iron her clothes while they were on her body.
I think I've tried that.
And so I remember like sitting and listening to her, and I was like, yeah, I mean, as a sober person at the time, I was like, why would you do that? That's dumb. Like that's like she had burns. Like and then she burned herself and continued to burn multiple areas. And I was like,
Wow.
oh my God, but if that isn't a metaphor for addiction, I don't know what is. Like, ow, this hurts. I should stop doing it. Well, I'm gonna go do it over on this. Like I did it on my pants, but if I do it on my sleeve, it'll be different, right? Like it was such a good metaphor for addiction. I was like, yeah. Addiction is like ironing your clothes when they're on your body with a hot iron. Never going to work out.
That is really good. And even though I think I may have done it even sober, just in a hurry, but only for 2 seconds, to your point. I vividly now, you just brought back a memory of just burning like my stomach, but just for like 2 seconds. I was like, I think if I have it on low heat, that's what I never realized how hot an iron gets so quickly, and even on low heat. It's amazing.
But see, that underscores the whole addiction metaphor even more is like, well, if I just do it on low heat and I only do it for 2 seconds, then it'll be okay. You know, it's just like, well, if I only drink beer, it'll be okay. If I only drink 2 beers, if I only drink near beer, if I only drink only on Tuesdays, like, you know, and we just kind of try to make these deals, you know, and the deals are you're going to lose every single time.
Every time. Oh,
every time.
Talk about deals all day, but I never lasted. Then quick one that comes to mind is the old wine, beer and wine only. Although I never drank beer because it wasn't efficient enough, but wine, I'm just gonna drink wine, and it never lasted for more than maybe I got as far as like 2 weeks, but still, I was saying it was gonna be the rest of my life, and just too sweet. You can only drink so much wine, but.
Well, you know, one of my favorite delusional Erin stories is, you know, I was a bar drinker. I was a beer and whiskey drinker. Like I drank like a man. I was very proud of that, right? I was out there being the best man woman I could be, right? And I wanted to be hard, you know? And anyway, and so I decided in my delusional alcohol-addled state of mind that what I really needed was to be more sophisticated, right? So I went out and I bought these wine glasses, and I had all this stuff and everything. And then I proceeded to go to the grocery store, and in my bid to be more sophisticated, I bought wine, right? In a box. Now, I've heard that in today's world, you can actually buy very good wine in a box. Like the delivery system has improved. I mean, the delivery system is the same, but the wine is improved. But I'm telling you, in 1993, they did not have like grapes involved wine in a box. Like it was nasty wine. And then I was always in too big of a hurry to actually go get the wine glass. So I would just do a tap hit of the wine in the box in the refrigerator. So this was Erin being sophisticated, right? Like it's just like, it cracks me up because like I look back and I think that poor girl, like, you know, she's going to be sophisticated drinking wine out of a box, and then she's not even going to use a glass. She's just going to tap hit it right out of the fridge. Like what universe was I living in? That was manufactured right here. I'm like, oh my God, just cracks me up, you know? And it's like compassion too. Like I know that was my best thinking back then, right?
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that although I can see remnants of that in my current behavior, like I'm not doing that kind of stuff anymore. Like I'm not, you know, but I'm probably delusional about some other things I'm being sophisticated about, which will come to light when it is time, right? And I will deal with those appropriately when it becomes time.
It's true. I was going to say, just like the iron analogy, even if I wasn't drunk at the time, but I was drinking an active drinker. So even when we're sober, our thinking was never clear. I mean, it just, there was
never clear.
So many things I just overlooked. just, I mean, just even an example, the place I live in now, I moved in 6 years ago. I had pure white walls for 4.5 years during my drinking because I didn't even notice it. I didn't even notice. And finally, when I got sober, I was like, oh, I got white wall. I finally hung some pictures up. Didn't help. I was also a perfectionist. And it took a friend to tell me to iterate. Brian, you can always iterate, redo it later. And I said, yeah, you're right. But just one example of a million.
Yeah.
Just so weak. I had a buddy. Oh, perfect segue. I have a buddy. Don't want to call him a narcissist, more of a contrarian know-it-all, but it's slightly similar to a narcissist. But he liked me. He said to me he liked me better in sobriety. I'm now 60, just hit 16 months. I once quit for 3.5 years, much longer story. And I do feel like I have a bit of a gift for talking about. So I feel like someone who's much more sober. I have an AA friend. He's like, you're not even supposed to. He goes, I've been sober 8 years. And still they don't like when I talk publicly about it. So he thinks I'm a complete fraud for even daring to do a podcast. But that aside, my buddy, one of my best friends, we talk almost every day when he's out driving and I'm always at home. He liked me better when I was drinking because I wouldn't be as energetic, but I'd also wouldn't put up with his BS of being a contrarian and a know-it-all and all that. He liked me better basically when I was weaker. And ultimately, I divorced him. Now it's been 3-4 months. I said, dude, you're never going to change. I've told you that bothers me. You need to do the work. And he just refused. And I want to also talk about what you do, but you're a divorce lawyer and a coach. And I said to you, when I discovered that, I thought you were just a mere alcoholic. And I discovered that. And I said, oh my God, I love to talk about this because I was married long ago to my first long-term girlfriend. We dated 5 years. I got the ultimatum. We married for 2 years. We had no chemistry. We were like roommates. We started talking about having kids, but I knew I wasn't going to make it and I didn't want to cheat on her. So eventually I just called it off. And I say that the divorce rate should be even higher. People settle way too soon, which not only screws themselves, but the person they were supposed to be with. And I said, drinking leads to tons of divorces, but so does sobriety. Because all these women in my community, they get stronger, sober, and they realize the man they're married to is a raving narcissist, and they give him the boot because they won't do the work. And I think even a lot of men regret encouraging their wives to get sober, right? Some even sabotage them to start drinking again, right? I mean, isn't it crazy? And then you have a quote to say, people think everyone's a narcissist, but no, only 50% are because the other 50% are the victims of them. But it is amazing how many men out there are just narcissists.
Well, I think it's women too. I mean, if I had a nickel for every time somebody comes in my office, man or woman, and said, my spouse is a narcissist, and I think that what I've been able to kind of boil it down to is that there's high conflict people, there's high conflict personalities, and the 6 major personality disorders definitely are the high conflict ones. So and narcissist is now just everybody's favorite, right? Like everybody's just, it's become a hot button term, which is very descriptive, right? Which, if the shoe fits kind of thing. But I think that they like conflict. And I do think that, drinking causes as many breakups as sobriety can. Because the person that you selected while you were drinking, once you sober up in the clear light of day and reason, you might look at and be like, what we had in common was drinking. That's what we had in common. There was a couple in the last 2 years of my drinking. I had a boyfriend up in Savannah and I used to go up to see him all the time, and they were married and he was in the military, and both of them were incredibly good looking people. Like they walked into a bar and all the men were looking at her and all the women were looking at him. And inevitably, every time, I mean, I'm not exaggerating, every time they would kind of enjoy that kind of notoriety or whatever. And then either the suitors would take it too far or one of them would take it too far. And then I can't tell you how many times I went and found that woman's wedding ring in a gutter in Savannah. Because every weekend they would get into a fight. She would take off her ring. She would throw it down. And then the last time I said, I'm not getting it anymore. And if I do go and get it, I'm keeping it. So don't throw your ring down anymore. I'm done picking it up out of a gutter for you. And they divorced, of course, right? because I don't know if they each had alcohol problems or not. I just know that the dynamic between them was toxic, right? And whatever brought them together was not enough to keep them together and keep them happy, right? And sane and stable, right? And so they divorced blessedly. But I think that I think it's hard to find somebody that you can have the same goals, or have similar trajectories, are willing to turn towards you. I mean, that's a risky proposition, right? Whether you're drunk or sober, to look at this other person and be like, hey, guess what? I'm willing to turn my life and my will to a large degree over to our relationship, to the ever evolving relationship. Because what's the fear? The fear is always the same. Well, I'm going to do it, but are you? Right. And I know for somebody like me, I'm constantly inventorying, like, well, they didn't do it there. They didn't do it there. They didn't like, now it's all me giving and they're all taking. And this is a bad deal for me. Like, why am I doing this? Right. I've cut a lot of bad deals in recovery. I cut a lot of worse deals in drinking. But I would love to claim better success in my recovery. But no, which is why I'm not dating. Right. Like, I just have decided, like, yeah, I'm just not going to. Yeah, it's just not a good. Just, I'm not swearing off forever with and without a solemn oath, but I'm going to just I'm going to take the bench for a little while.
Yeah, that's funny. I was going to ask if you were on any of the apps, which I am, but I almost want to follow yours. I have a therapist friend. She's like, Brian, just get off. But I'm a hopeless romantic. I go, what if I miss the one? I got to be on there. But yeah, it's a distraction.
Yeah, only human beings. This is my position on the apps. I've done them. I've sworn off them with and without solemn oath a number of times. And here's what I found. Only human beings could devise a system that would bring more people ever in the history of the world into your orbit for you to connect with, but then create a system such that you will never likely connect with another person, because the way the system is designed is inherently flawed, because it doesn't build quality, it builds quantity, right? And the algorithm is based on addiction, right? So like, I can't even tell you, and I'm just talking about myself. I'm not taking anybody else's inventory, right? You go out with somebody, I go out with this man, we go out, we're having dinner, it's a nice time, he's attractive, he looks like his pictures. Yay, that's awesome. Definitely been on dates where they did not look like their pictures at all. You're having a nice time. And I'm telling you, in the back of my head, what has happened is I'm like, yeah, but he lives like down south and I don't like driving south. And, I don't know, I didn't like that. I didn't like this. And in the back of my head, I'm like, I can just go home and I can swipe through the rest of the Amazon shopping for men, right? It's exactly like gambling, right? It's like the hit, the more I swipe, I'm going to hit it. I'm going to hit it. It's like the slot machine. It's like dating slot machine. Like, okay, I'm going to put my quarter in, or my $25 a month or whatever it is. And I'm going to pull the thing. I'm going to pull the lever. And it's like, how many people win in Vegas? Almost nobody, right? And from my experience and the people that I know that are using the apps to date, they are having the same thing. Although a friend of mine came over last night and he told me about his 1 week relationship and his 1 month relationship, and he met those in real life in recovery, and it was not rousing success either. So like, then after he left, I was kind of like despondent, like, okay, so the apps don't work and in real life doesn't work. Maybe God just wants me to be alone. Like, maybe I'm just supposed to be alone. Like, maybe that's just what's supposed to be my lot,
Yeah, it's tough. And it's tougher for women for sure, because men don't evolve as much as women either. I love it now. I hit all the check marks of everything women say they're looking for, particularly the emotional intelligence. Boom. But so many things, dating with intention, all that. I love the great quote, supposedly from Einstein, which is kind of random, but how when couples get married, oh, you must know this one, that the woman gets married hoping the man will change, and the man hopes the woman will never change, and both end up inevitably disappointed. And it's so true. It's so true. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a very seductive delusion that we can fix what's broken with what's broken, right? And nothing stays static, right? Nothing stays static. Everything is always changing, whether we like it or not, whether we want to admit it or not. My mom always says, I am not the woman that your father married. it's a very valid criticism. Excuse me, my dad wasn't, I don't think, making it. But it, she changed, right? I've changed. I've evolved. I think that we need to redefine what it is that we're looking for as far as a relationship to provide. I saw this woman, which was brilliant. I loved what she said, was like, she's like, I don't want my boyfriend to be everything to me, because never has romantic love had more expectations placed on it. You need to be my lover, my best friend, my partner in life, my co-financier, my travel companion, all of the things, my co-parent, all of the things, right? I want everything from this one person. And she's like, yeah, I don't want that. I don't want my boyfriend to be everything. Like, we don't need to travel together all the time. I don't need to tell you everything. I've got girlfriends for that. Like, I'll go tell them a whole bunch of stuff, And also kind of the gender differences, which, it's going to be interesting to see kind of where we go, since gender is something that's now very fluid, as opposed to being, when I grew up, you had male and female and that was it. And now there's this spectrum, which I think is going to be really interesting to see kind of how this changes things. But generally speaking, my experience, men and women communicate for different reasons, and they communicate very, very differently, which is, I think, one of the bases for why men and women's, relationships are difficult, right? I used to tell people at work all the time, like the guys would come in and they'd go in their office and they'd do the things, and then they would communicate to exchange information. I need you to do this. I need to do this, right? And the women would come in to build relationship, right? I want to talk to you. How was your weekend? What is he doing? How's your grandchild? Blah, 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 right? And so I would say to the men in my office, I'd be like, look, if you never communicate to build relationship with that legal secretary or that legal assistant, they are not going to stay late. They are not going to work weekends when you need them to, because you have not done the work to build a relationship with them so that they feel like you're invested in them as a human being, right? And then I would tell the women in my office, I'm like, you can't go into the guy's office and talk nonstop while he's on a deadline for 35 minutes about what you ate for dinner and how magical it was. You got to consider the time and space, right? So like, you need to dial it back a little bit of what you're communicating and when, and you need to extend yourself a little bit more, dude, And it changed, it helped a great deal. We found a middle ground that we could meet. And I think that applies to the dating world, which is why I thought.
Well, yeah, and that's funny, because I was going to go to say, to your point, online doesn't work, real life doesn't work. I've always said the best relationships are work-formed relationships, because people get to know each other slowly, the way it's supposed to work. Friends first, right? Which, of course, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Men prefer to get to know the woman physically, then mentally, and women, it's vice versa. In an office, you guys have no choice to get to know them mentally. And they're super honest, including about their current relationship. And they get to know each other slowly. Then they fall in true love the way it's supposed to work, including one more circle back to good old Andy. Andy and Kristen could very much, again, I love that you said it in your blog. They look like they were in love. And yeah, he did not look like the empty guy that I knew.
People that are just sleeping with each other don't go to Coldplay concerts.
Right. Exactly.
You get a motel room, or you're in your car. I mean, I having divorced many people who have had affairs with an emotional connection are based in trips, vacations, concerts, those kinds of things. People that are just randomly having sex with random people, it's hotel rooms, bathroom stalls, cars, porta potties, kind of gross, but it's opportunistic as opposed to a planned, intentional act.
Yeah. So I do think to circle back, my best relationships happen in the office. And in fact, I love the concept of during COVID. I've never really heard people talk about this. Think of all the affairs that came to a dead stop during COVID. That is so fascinating to me. So fascinating. Now they're stuck home with their spouse. COVID had some benefits, including the Zoom sobriety communities. One of them is it caused a lot of divorces and prevented, ideally, some marriages as well.
It's so funny that you say that, but like when I worked for a big law firm, when COVID hit, and we were like, oh my God, like what's going to happen, right? What's going to happen? And we had like a month was like a month, like from March until like maybe the end of April of 2020, where we were like, the court wasn't open. What's going to happen? And then I'm telling you, we were 100 times busier than we'd ever been before. It was insane because distance provides secrecy, right? When you're locked down with somebody else, how do you bring out that other phone that your spouse doesn't know that you have, right? It's a lot harder to hide when you're like in real life all the time and you're not like in the car commuting and you're not doing the things. And in today's world, as going back to poor Andy, I feel badly for anybody who's thrust into the spotlight, period, end of story. But we are a digital world now, whether you like it or whether you hate it, it doesn't matter. Everything is being recorded all the time. And for you to go to a very public place and expect that somehow, some way, you're not going to be caught in some sort of thing. I could tell you stories for the next 3 hours of people and how they were caught in their affairs. And digital is the number one way that people are caught. The missent text message, the missent. I had a client who husband sent her lingerie, no name associated with it, but she knew instantaneously that he had a mistress because he would never have sent her that. Just
Right.
like just to your point, where your friend was like, he would never say, let's cuddle by the fire, right?
Exactly.
Like, he would never send her that kind of lingerie. So she knew immediately. Not me, meant for somebody else. Wrong address.
Absolutely. And by the way, nothing wrong with saying poor Andy. It's these people that don't have empathy. Empathy, they say, is largely innate, but it can also be learned, and especially learned through doing the work and understanding, for me, how the brain works. But Andy, even the guy saying again, bad father, Andy they could have stayed married for the sake of the children, again, to get through college. As as you've said, what is the worst thing for kids? It's like high conflict divorces, right? I mean, whether high or low, but just divorce. Every time my parents fought, I freaked out that they were going to get divorced. They never did, and they didn't fight that much, but when they did. So I think ultimately it's better if it is a loveless, sexless marriage. They should just get divorced, and the kids in the long run will be better off. They'll have now two families, two happy families, and all that. But we don't have time for that, and we only have 5 minutes left. But so many things still. I want to talk about what you do, and it even kind of relates to kind of what I want to do. But you are a divorce lawyer. It's interesting, a lawyer and a coach. And what you say about the coaching is everyone needs a therapist and a coach in life anyway. And I was going to say, if people think you sound like a therapist, it's because that's also one of your jobs. And there's a lot of jobs like that, right? Hairdressers and certainly lawyers function as, quick story, I actually got to tell you. So I was dating a woman and I told her I went to therapy. I'm very open about that. And she said, oh, why do you go to therapy? And I gave this defensive answer. Everybody needs it. They just don't do it. She goes, no, I only ask because being a hairdresser, I also function as a therapist.
Well, I say like I'm a counselor at law, right? I'm
Right.
not a therapist. I don't do therapy. I do coaching. But I feel like I counsel people with compassion and with a goal in mind, right? Like, let's not just stay mired in this problem forever, right? Like I say, divorce is a vehicle for change, right? If you do the work that's presented to you, because I've done this for 30 years and I've never seen one marriage that was 100% one person's fault. You always have, and your job is incumbent upon you in a divorce to find out, it may be 1% to 99. That 1%, that's your catalyst for change, right? That's the thing that you can change. That's the thing that you can do differently. And that's the best piece of news, because if it's all the other person and it's not you at all, right, you're screwed, right? Because you can't change them at all. You can only change you, right? So
Right.
It's like the best thing is for you to use the divorce process, whether that be going off to mediation and resolving it all and getting an uncontested divorce. Cool. That's the goal. That's the gold standard, right? Litigation is the default position, right? So whether you go through like easy or bloodbath, like it is all a vehicle for change for you. And you can use those things that are happening to you to happen for you so that when you get to the end result where your divorce is final, that it is now a springboard for you to launch into this new life, right? And that's an amazing thing, right? And that's kind of what I bring to my experience as a lawyer, but also as a coach. Like, how do we take what's happening to you and make it work for you, right?
Right.
And help you get the resources. Like maybe you need a financial planner, maybe you need a therapist. Why'd you pick this person? You've been married. I had this client one time, she's married like 5 times. And we met the boyfriend number 6, which ended up being husband number 6. And he was just like the other 5, like no change. And it's like, okay, there's a wound there that you're not healing, which is causing you to pick the same person over and over and over again. And it's going to end in the exact same dumpster fire that all of the other ones ended in, right? For sure. But, she wouldn't do the work. So she ended up with, another husband that was going to be a huge disappointment to her, that was going to end in divorce. And I can't help them figure out why that person. That's not my job. Like, that's a therapist's job. Like, help you heal the childhood stuff, the attachment style issues, those kinds of things. That's a therapist's work. My work is to help you see that you need one and then help you access that resource.
Yeah. And, this just occurred to me, the difference between a divorce lawyer and a divorce coach? Yeah, about $300 an hour.
Boom.
Boom. And I don't know the exact rate, but I've heard you say it. And people don't spend your time talking to a lawyer about things you should be talking to a coach or a therapist about, because you bill less. But so that's really what you do.
For me, like, that's what I do for people when I'm coaching them is like, okay, they'll bring up 27 questions and I'm like, okay, 20 of them are like, okay, ask your attorney this. Ask your attorney that. And then the attorneys love it because they're like, instead of like an emotional dump gobbledygook that they get from their client that's like 1,000 points of light going in 27 different directions, they're able to be like, question 1, can I stay in the house? Question mark. Answer. Yes. Here's what you need to do to make that happen. Right. And so it just makes everything. And then you spend so much less at attorney's fees.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, I'm actually in the process, and by the time this airs, hopefully I will have long since built a sobriety community. And sadly, we don't have time to talk about those today. I really want to talk about AA versus the type of communities I'm in. But I also think I have a gift as a sobriety recovery coach as well. But I want to save like tons of lives. So I think I can help more people by building a community versus one-on-one coaching. But I'm still kind of torn on that. And I think there's you likewise could actually, ultimately, I think I could build a bunch of different communities, including a divorce community, save more lives, help more people that way as well.
I guess what I would want to say, I think that what you need to do is find something that speaks to you, whether that be the traditional 12-step model, whether that be, I don't know if rational recovery is still around. There's Dharma recovery. I mean, there's a recovery out there for you. There's harm reduction. Like, I don't think that there is a bad way to try to deal with your demons, right? Like, other than to continue to try to medicate them. That's a way that's going to end in, jails, institution, and death every single time. So any steps you take, whether it be going to a program, going to a treatment center, working in a sober-based community, coaching, whatever it is, like any step that you're taking towards the light is a positive step. Keep going, right? It's incumbent upon all of us to figure out what resonates and speaks to us, right? I would never tell anybody how they have to do recovery, right? Like, I've had my own journey. I feel very confident about what works for me, but I don't know what's best for everybody else. And I feel like when somebody comes to me and they're suffering, I can tell them what worked for me and then help them access other resources if what I've done doesn't feel like a good fit for them, right? Like, I don't feel like my responsibility is to recruit new members, right? Like, that's not my job. My job is to be a good example and to help the person who's suffering find a way out, right? And that could be the very same path that I've walked, or it could be some other variation that I don't even know anything about, right? And maybe I could learn more.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you ever want to run a divorce online community?
Absolutely.
And all the headaches that go along with
yeah, that would be a blast. Are you kidding me? I would love that.
What about that versus one-on-one though? Because
I like both. I think they both have value, and it's different value, right? The community is to help normalize the experience, right? The community is the thing that normalizes the experience. You think you're the only one, right? Like, that, if recovery's taught me anything, is like all of the deep, dark secrets that I had in my head. Like, you go to some sort of recovery community or whatever, and you hear somebody else say the thing that you've been terrified to say. You're like, oh my God, that guy feels the same way that I do. Like, oh, I thought I was the only one, right? So community is essential, right? But then there's also like you can't do at a community level the stuff that you can do on an individual basis. So I think that there's a time and a place for both. And I think having the intensive time that you do one-on-one work is super important for, continued accelerated growth. I look at the community as the net, right? Like you are working your own deal, you're doing your own stuff, and that works for you. But then there's the net of the community that helps you support you when you founder or when you've had amazing success. Like you have your cheerleaders, right? That are like, yes, you killed that. You navigated that. Or the people that are there when you're like, I'm lost and I can't go forward. That they can encircle you and help you walk through it, not by yourself, right? Because I think that addiction, in my own personal experience, is the loneliest thing I've ever had to walk through in my life. With a brain that told me, don't tell anybody, don't let anybody in, do not reach out, do not share, do not let that out of the bag, right? Like to be able to overcome that, to be able to like raise my hand and be like, yeah, I just blah, blah, blah. Like, or I feel like this, or I want to drink, or I want whatever. Like that to me is like, that's the only way. Like I had to go, hello, I need help. I don't have all the answers. I can't do this by myself. I want to, even with 30 years of recovery. Like I still would like to do it by myself. I find needing other people inconvenient. However, I absolutely know that the only reason that I'm where I am today is because of all of the other people that have been there and helped me walk the road. And without them, I never would have made it one day, let alone 30 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And two quick things. One, the movie Materialists is fairly new with Chris Evans and Dakota Johnson. There's a great quote in that I meant to mention earlier. And we talked about people settle too soon. First marriages to me are almost always a mistake. You mentioned how the infidelity is so high in first marriages on.
It's worse in second and thirds, by the way.
Oh, really? I thought you said.
I'm sorry. No. I meant the divorce rate. Sorry. I conflated those two things. Yeah.
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah. We got to do a whole convo on that because I've been divorced 20 plus years, 23, because I said I'll never settle again.
Yeah.
Also, the drinking didn't help me date properly.
I know.
Right.
Good call not getting married while you were drunk.
Yeah. But I said, I can't even imagine getting divorced for a second time or a third time. But that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would think people would learn and be more discerning and not less.
People get desperate.
Yes, that's very true. But it's better be alone than miserable. I've never forgotten that quote.
True.
And I also had a friend said she walked away from a lot of money in a divorce just because it was so unhealthy mentally, and she just said, I'll make up for it later. That's a great lesson I never forgot about. I did that. I walked away from my pizza joint. It was my biggest trigger without even selling it just because it wasn't worth it. And that's a whole nother discussion with you that you have expertise on. But a great quote in that movie. So the woman, I could see you playing the role as she was a matchmaker. And one of her clients was getting married, but got cold feet on the wedding day. And she said, what's the real reason you wanted to marry him? What's the reason you never told anybody? And the bride-to-be said, you know the real reason? Because he makes my sister jealous. She thinks he's better than her husband. And that was her whole reason. And I don't care if it was a fictional movie. That's real life. That's why she wanted to marry the guy. That's insane. I would love to. I vowed ever since I got divorced, I was going to, pre-Cana, I'll just say it anyway, Catholic thing. It's like a retreat you're supposed to go to before you get married. And they're supposed to ask you a bunch of tough questions, almost try to talk you out of it. But the one I went on was a joke, and they only asked us about our finances, which are fine. So I've been trying to pre-Cana couples ever since to break them up before they get married because no one does it. That's a great service right there. I mean, people, the rare couples that would get therapy before they got married, be like, if you need therapy before you get married, you should never get married. But no, everybody needs therapy. Just like everyone needs personal therapy, every relationship needs therapy.
And sometimes with the best of intentions. I mean, my ex-husband and we did counseling before we got married, and it didn't help. And why didn't it help? I was not capable of being honest with myself. So that level of honesty that person was able to get to in a movie of, I want to marry him because he makes my sister jealous, is a level of honesty that most people don't have access to. I believe everybody possesses it, but we lock it away. We hide it. It's beneath all of the the veneers of social acceptability and what's politically correct and all of those kinds of things that gets buried deep down inside, and we lose touch with it and we forget that it exists. So I think that being able to be brutally honest with yourself about what your motives are. What are my motives here, right? That is, to me, one of the essences that recovery gave me, was this ability to this clear channel of me being able to access, how do I really think and feel about this? And then to have the courage to hopefully better and better over time to speak the truth, even though it's going to fall flat. It's going to be, the thing that blows everything up. It's going to end badly. It's going to blow up my life, whatever. But knowing that, having the courage of my convictions and being yeah, I can't do that because of this is how I really feel. It's a hard ask, almost impossible to do when you're not sober, if you need to be sober.
Yes, there are a lot of paradoxes, if you will, that,
right.
Sort of like you need to love yourself to put in the work to do recovery, but you come in with self-loathing, and you only gain self-love by doing the work. So it's a vicious cycle, and similar to what you just said. And I was saying, I was in therapy forever, but it didn't work because I wasn't ready. It's almost like you can't apply advice. If you're not ready to take the advice, you're not going to apply it.
No. Well, that's why we can't get people sober that don't want to get sober. They don't think that they have a problem, so they're not going to do the work.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's so crazy. And in 1 minute, you could decide, I know we're over time, but I just did a YouTube that I spoke to both Andy, poor old Andy, I'll bring up one more time, Andy, and then even on a larger scale, it was the day of Brian Koberger, the awful guy that killed those 4 people in Idaho. It was the day of his sentencing where he got completely vilified by the victim's friends and family, including this one girl that basically bullied the heck out of him, said basically made him feel worthless. And I get it. I'd be furious, especially that he shows no remorse. But that's a very sick individual who needs some major, major therapy. So even a guy like that, or even, sexual predators, I'm trying to get people to have some level of empathy.
Well, my thing, it goes back to, I, Erin, want to be the spiritual person who can be approached in whatever way. And the innate essence of me is what responds, not some engendered reaction because my ego has been threatened or because I've been bullied or because whatever, I have a difficult neighbor and she has become my spiritual barometer. If I walk outside and I say, is outside, I know that I am not spiritually fit, right? But if I walk outside and I'm like, oh, so-and-so's outside, I'm like, oh, I'm spiritually fit today, right? So for me, it's I get the anger and the pain that is born of that. And everybody's got to walk their own path with that. I don't want to judge anybody else's recovery or their feelings. I don't know what it would feel like to have survived any of those things. However, I know for me, I know who I want to show up as. And I know that that's incumbent upon me to figure that out and then to behave in ways that conform with that, right? And that's what's right for me, right? And I don't want anybody else to tell me what's right for me. And so I don't want to tell anybody else what's right for them, right? Everybody's got to figure it out for themselves, right? And I'm so grateful that recovery had wide enough doors for me to walk into and sit down with all of my prejudice and all of my bias and all of my anger and all of my hatred and all of my stuff, all my baggage, right? And there's plenty of room for me to sit down and to be very uncomfortable until I found the ability and the will to save myself.
Well said.
Thank you.
Said.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And final thought on that, if we continue to purely vilify these people and have no empathy, we're just creating more criminals and we're never going to solve the problem because people aren't going to raise their hand.
People, I think, have a misunderstanding about the condemnation of horrible, abhorrent behavior and empathy. I've worked in a lot of prisons. And those people did unspeakable things, but there is a humanity to them and there's a backstory to everybody, right? And I think that is one of the things that being sober has taught me is that, good people do bad things. And just because you've done one bad thing doesn't mean that you are a horrible, terrible person. It's what you do about the one bad thing that you did or the 10 bad things that you did that is going to be your defining moment, right? And I don't know. I don't want to be the arbiter of anybody else's behavior. I'm a full-time job over here all by myself, right? Like, but yeah, I think that, the world could use a bit more kindness.
Absolutely. It sure could. Empathy can go a long way. All right. Well,
thank you so
Erin,
much.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm going to I'll get all your links when I air this, or I even probably have them, but you do have an amazing blog. You're such a great writer. So Naked Random Thoughts, right? And
yes,
you're
thank
welcome.
You.
And Erin Schaden, is that how you say it?
Yep.
.com, right? Any other links or anything you want to throw out?
Yeah, my law firm is Fate and Delima out of Rockville, Maryland. If you're in Maryland and need coaching or a divorce, give us a call. And if you're anywhere else in the world and you need a mediator or a coach, feel free to give me a call.
All right. Awesome.
Thank you so much for having me and for finding me, right? Such a happy delight to be asked. It's an honor. So thank you.
You're welcome. And you're going to be asked again, by the way, probably immediately in an email. Be like, Erin, we need to now that you've said you worked in prisons and oh my God, there's so much more to discuss. And thank you for going even into overtime. I knew we could talk forever, but it's funny. 45 minutes ago, I said, oh, I think we might cover all this in the next half hour. But no, I think we could talk forever. So, all right.
Thanks so much,
Erin,
Brian.
You're welcome. Thank you.